Okay.
Hello.
Hello there. I'm so thrilled that you're joining me today, Emerson, on my show. I'm talking true. It's such an honor to have you here. It's really great. And I'm sure my viewers will get a lot from what you have to share. So, what I was thinking was maybe I know some of your story, but
Yeah,
I think it might be really great if you could kind of give an overview of you
sure.
so that they know where you were, where you came from.
I'm just like everybody else, started seeking because there was suffering. You get to a point in your life that you think that you have everything and only to see that, it's a facade. And so when I get to a point in my life, I thought that I was financially secure. I still didn't feel happy. I had the relationship, the dog, the house, and the seeking bug bit me, and and then I think overnight, really overnight, one time, and I sold my house and started quit my job and started seeking um, with the intention to hopefully get to that realization. And because I've been hearing a lot about it, I went, reading everything. I think the one of the first books that I read were like the Power of Now, the autobiography of a yogi, the Yogananda. I also did A Course in Miracles, and I Am That. You name it. You know what I'm saying? I was just a sponge, um, and I left everything, and then I started, studying meditation, studying this and that in hopes of um, becoming a teacher. I was meditating so much that, when I reached that 10,000 hours of
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
I was counting.
yeah.
um, I thought that I could teach it and went into Eastern philosophy. Um, what else did I do? Became a teacher. And then one day after I got all of this teachings, here I was dressed up in my Lululemons, my mala bead, drinking a kombucha. And I was walking on a street somewhere in Vancouver, and I encountered an area that I avoided all the time. And all my judgment just happened. I got panicked. There was a lot of homelessness, a lot of drugs. So I clutched my wallet, my vegan leather wallet, and went back home. And I'm like, after hours of meditation, where's my compassion?
Hmm.
So redid. I'm like, at that time, I'm like, I'm going to redo my karma. So I went back and something, I was walking, I was just watching my dog, of how my dog was so unconditional. My little son Miguel that passed away 2 years ago. Um, and boom, the veil just dropped. And I saw, at that time, I saw everything as God. And synchronicities happened. I was hugging everybody on the street. And I said, I should serve the people on the street. There was
Yeah.
a space available. I took it and I opened up a free meditation, kind of like wellness center with yoga, everything, you know what I'm saying, that you could think of. And I did that for quite a while. And I thought I was at the height of spiritual summit. The enlightenment, the bliss, the Satchitananda and everything. But life threw a curveball, and my mom had to have brain surgery. She had a brain tumor, and my relationship, my marriage was falling apart. And I thought, well, I thought enlightenment would solve all of this.
Hmm. Yes. That's a big one.
It is.
That's a belief, right?
It
That
is
if
a belief.
when I become enlightened, I won't have any more problems.
Mhm.
And
So
we buy,
my
yeah.
the bubble burst, and I thought that I lost it because I'm like, how dare me? Why did I question it? And really, I was just really avoiding this stuff. So I started guru seeking again, went into seeking. Like, well, one of these guys, I would, my pitch would be, I got enlightened before, but I lost it. How can I get it back?
Yes.
I'm already a spiritual teacher. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
mention names, but I went to the top, um, A-type personality, kind of like, person, went back into that
Mm-hmm.
after 10 years, basically, of being, or my timeline is really bad because I don't know what time is anymore. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then, of course, I, I just I kept on coming back empty handed. None of the teachers, none of the speakers would do it for me. And then I went back into just listening to YouTube, and I was getting really frustrated
Mm-hmm.
and suffering. I call it the dark 2 years of the soul.
Yes, yes.
um,
And
um,
sometimes it can be a decade. Sometimes.
yeah.
So look, can I just stop you there, because I
Yeah.
think that's a really important point. The point you made about hoping that when you go to gurus, they will kind of point you in the right direction or give you the key to the promise. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes that doesn't manifest. It's like you're not quite there. The there is always in the future. It's never now.
No.
There's
Yeah.
there's there's no one that I can recall who actually will, lead a group of seekers or even an individual into the
Mm-hmm.
recognition of what is already here right now in this moment.
Yeah.
And I know you articulate that a lot more kind of expressively than I do, but I think that's the crux of the issue, isn't it?
You did pretty well.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking for the next guru, the next retreat. And then I think I was just spending so much money, and I was depleting my bank account because I'm like, how many retreats, how many teachers do I, which one is it? And it just kept on coming back and empty. And at one point I was in a retreat and I was talking to the participants, and some of them would be like, oh, this is my 10th year retreat with this person. I'm like, 10 years. I'm like, what? Or something like that. Right. And it kept on, going. And I'm like, and that's why I was getting frustrated, because in my 10 years or so of
mhm.
teaching, no one was waking up.
Right, right,
And so
right.
it was something that, but I was in bliss, I was at peace, but no one was reaching that kind of peace or bliss or whatever. um and so I started questioning that, right? Am I really fooling myself?
Yeah,
um I, I was helping a lot of people, I was on the streets. Am I getting a messiah complex from all of this, right? um
yes.
when my mom and my dad visited what I was doing, they're like, oh, you're doing Jesus's work, this is what Jesus would do,
Oh,
helping people on the streets and everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. You
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
but
I mean, listen, all of that does have value, right?
it
It really
does.
does
There
have
was
value.
earnestness in the beginning,
Yes,
earnestness in the beginning.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful, but at the same time, we hear this story again and again. I mean, I know people who belong to a yoga community for 27, 30, 35 years, 40 years, were on staff and everything, and still full of doubt, full of insecurity, were terrified of leaving the ashram in case they couldn't function on their own. So, really, having not attained very much. And that was kind of it raised a flag for me. It was like alarm bells were going off, because I kept thinking, how is it possible you spend this much time and you're still filled with these basic kind of anxieties? So yeah, so please go on with your story.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all what I was seeing, right? Because people, um, there was a codependency there.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher had the power, and the
Yeah.
student gives away their power to the teacher.
Yes.
And I started seeing that that's what was happening even when I was a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
that I had the power. And it's such a, um, if you're a sensitive kind of guy, if you are more of like the empathic kind of person, you will eat you up,
Yes.
because you know that it's a whole smoke and mirror show.
Yes.
That it's like being the Wizard of Oz, right? There's this fantastical community,
Yeah.
and but no one is no one is set free,
No,
and it
no.
just becomes this codependency. So I went into exile. I stepped down as a teacher, and I went into this remote island, and I was suicidal. I thought that the life was over for me, that I've done wrong.
Mm.
I spent a couple of years, not being able to sleep because I was so ashamed, and so yeah, it was just brutal, right? Because I'm like, there's so many people counting on me. I'm a terrible person, and I failed, and I became a persona non grata,
Wow.
and yeah, right, because
When was that? What kind of
oh, 8 years ago.
date? Okay.
Or
Okay.
yeah, my timeline. So anyway, but lo and behold, one day, you know what I'm saying, I was still binging on the YouTube videos. um I got into radical non-duality a little bit, and I got really depressed from that. I kept on hitting my head on the wall.
Yes.
And it was just ridiculous, right?
Mm.
And then I was just DJing. People were trying to get me back as a teacher. They're like, it's okay, people fall once in a while, and you
Yeah.
just have to get back. And there were some lovely people that booked me for a retreat. And I was just getting ready back to go back into teaching and everything. And they said, it's okay if you don't have any realization. It's all right, Emerson. And um,
Nice.
and I quit seeking because I wanted to be clear for that event. I quit seeking. And then one day, but the problem is I have this panic attacks. I'm always looking for the next. And you know how that goes. So people have
Yes.
had anxiety. And one day I was about to go into this big panic attack, and I just met it directly. I went DJing, I played music, you know what I'm saying? And I did not do my usual. I used to have like a sadhana that was like 3-4 hours of meditation, and just a whole bunch of stuff, and I had so many tools in my tool belt on how
Yeah.
to deal with this one. I had, pranayama, all of that, all of this kind of stuff and everything. None of them were working anymore. I'm not saying that it doesn't work for other people, but for me, it was not working anymore. It's like
Mhm.
all my drugs,
Yes.
the drugs are not working anymore. So I went sober basically because I could get into a state of whatever, you know what I'm saying, by doing that kind of stuff. But I was avoiding life.
Yes.
And so one day I was just, about to go into panic attack, and there was this DJing that was happening, and then all of a sudden everything was just happening of its own on its own. The
While you were
tracks
while you
while
were
I was DJing,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then there was this serenity that just kind of like washed over everything. And then I was like, I can't find Emerson. I could not find my thoughts. The beliefs were going down the drain. And one of the biggest belief that I had was this dualistic, belief. One would be like everything is God. And then the opposite of that there's no God.
Yes.
And I held them both. So
Hmm.
when that belief, what they say is that God takes the last step or whatever, that's just another story.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then, so when that happened, actually, when the belief about God or no God came, I was stunned. So I did not, I could not really speak. I called the organizer right away for the retreat and said that I am so sorry. I can't, do this. I have nothing to teach anymore. Luckily, the person was very understanding. I went into the PayPal and just refunded everybody. And then I'm back to zero again, meaning that I didn't even know after that month what am I going to do,
Yeah.
living wise. But clarity was so, I don't even know how to explain it. I was just walking, breathing. I would
Yeah.
see my reflection in the mirror and jump out. I'm like, who's that? Um, so the mind just went, um, the ego died or whatever. And then I started watching some of the videos again, and I started laughing. I'm like, it's so simple.
Yes.
It's so simple. How could this be so simple? And then after that, you know what? I didn't even have any desire to teach or to speak or to do anything at all.
Yeah.
there was just a beautiful unfolding, and it was just so humbling. It's almost like I was resisting this so much. It's always been this way. I've been resisting it, but it's always here.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
always here. It cannot be denied or even accepted.
Right. Right.
So
And
what's in between?
what happens is we overlay it, especially when we're in seeking mode. We overlay what is already here
Mm-hmm.
with the idea of next or next week or tomorrow or the next
Mm-hmm.
retreat or when I have this big experience or whatever.
And that's what it is. That's what it is, right? It's like, what do I have to do? Maybe I need 10,000 hours of meditation or this, and that.
Yes.
And so there was this freedom from all ideas of freedom, because I think the thinking broke, and
You wore it out.
it's like and the beliefs I could not find anymore, and I could not, and there was just this beautiful contentment. I'm trying to put words into it, but
Yes,
it cannot really be described, right? And
no.
it's not like this big fireworks, or not like this big. There was a wow, in the beginning. I'm like, wow.
Yes. Yes. And again, this is a really good point because
But not even like a big
not
thing,
even
right? It's just like,
yes.
oh my goodness, the wow was like, it's always been this way.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No, I was going to say, I've shared my awakening story a few times with respect to the Kundalini and all of those things, and lucid dreams and this and that and the other. And I know that a lot of seekers have this idea that to have an awakening, a big awakening, it's going to be this big dramatic event. Like angels will appear and there'll be light and there'll be an
Oh,
orchestra.
that's what I was expecting.
Yes. So when that doesn't happen, then seekers will overlook what is already here, their intuitions, their insight, their self-recognition, however you want to phrase it, in favor of thinking that the big event has to come before they attain what is already here.
And it doesn't help that our, role models in this one have this almost like romanticized version of what this is.
Yes.
And the robes, the quietness, the monk-like things, that for quite a while I was like thinking, I think I have to be more like that.
Yes. Yes. You think, well, certainly in the yogic community I belong to, the sort of the preference was to take a spiritual name, a Hindi name,
Mm-hmm.
and to wear the red dot and to wear the robes and to speak, very quietly and have your japamala in your hands
That's
and
right.
not to
Yeah.
be too loud and not to be too kind of out there or extra, and all of that is just crazy because what's happening is, we're learning to diminish ourselves in favor of some fantasy that's just kind of idealized and it's not real.
Yeah. And then there's the opposite side of that, right? Because there's the angry enlightened character,
Yes.
if you know what I'm
Yes.
saying, right?
Yes. Yes.
The
Yes.
negation, the
Yes.
nihilism, the stoicism, the denial, the bypassing, the gaslighting,
Yes.
right? And then people become this almost like angry old man, you know, um, in the guise of enlightenment. There's no one here, that kind of thing,
Yes.
basically.
Yes. Yes.
And and it just becomes another, and so people think that they have to be that way. So what
Mm-hmm.
they're missing is the authenticity of what already is.
Yes.
It's
And
because they're looking for an idea of what
yeah,
it should look like.
yes. And also there's a belief added to that if an emotion comes up, such as anger or irritation, or you feel shitty for no reason or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a sign that you're not enlightened
Oh
or
yeah,
not there yet. That should not be happening because once you are enlightened, you only ever feel blissful
that's
and
right.
happy and at peace. All of that is just such crap.
It
It's
is such crap. Yeah, it
but we
is.
we can really buy into that, and sometimes actually very often these are kind of unspoken beliefs that run through communities. So even if somebody's suffering and hurting and feeling frustrated and whatever, they don't dare bring it up and share it, because it'll be seen as being a fault,
Mm-hmm.
or you should meditate more, or you should do more of the practices, or you're not doing enough in terms of giving, or whatever the story is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it can be really toxic and dysfunctional. A lot of spiritual communities are just a hot mess.
Yeah. And I'll give you the opposite of that. The opposite of that is the intellectualization of what this is.
Yes.
So people become non-duality police. They'll say that there's still a me there.
Yeah.
That's and it's just um or saying that it's just this, it's always this, and it just becomes an intellectualized version of that again. Right.
Yes.
So what I've been expressing lately is the in-betweenness, the middleness, the
Yeah.
directness,
Yeah.
without the influence of others,
Hmm.
without the passing of knowledge, so to speak. That blind spot that seemed to be always overlooked, right? Which is
Yeah.
always right here. So it's not really a blind spot. And so whatever seems to appear as it is, plainly, simply, ordinarily, just whatever seems to be occurring. So it could be anger, it could be frustration, it could be laughing, belly laughs and everything, but the filters all come off. And it's
Yes.
almost like, and again, this is just a narrative. It's almost like an opportunity to love what this is over and over again,
Yes.
to be at
Yes.
peace with it over and over and over again. Right.
Yes.
And um, I have a brand new, because people always ask me if I get angry. And for quite a while, I had to be honest and said that not really. One time I got angry like a year ago now, I think, when someone was yelling at my dad, and I was so happy that I was yelling back at this person. This person was yelling at my elderly dad. I'm like, that's my dad, that kind of thing. It was just a car situation. And then within minutes, I was like, like looked at my dad. I'm like, I got angry. And I started laughing. I'm like, I got angry. I have an anger story now. Today, this is the funniest thing, right? Today, um, I was in a customer service AI thing, and it kept on asking for the account number. And I just really wanted to speak to the operator. So I kept on saying, operator. 30 minutes later, it was it's just the AI operator. I'm like, operator. Here I was, you know what, reacting to the operator. And then after I said, operator, I burst out laughing so hard. I'm like, there it
Yes.
is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not personal, right? It's not personal. It's because I was not even talking to a person. I was just talking to, and I'm sure people that have dealt with those, like I'm calling FedEx. We have a Canada Post strike here, right? So it's all a mess. You know what I'm saying? The postals and stuff like that. And even, I think that FedEx has probably getting so many calls because they're overloaded right now with a whole bunch of shipments or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it was so funny. And someone asked me to help them because they're like, I can't seem to get through. I'm like, okay, let me try it. Let me help out. And I was like, oh my goodness, it is frustrating.
Yes.
It's a part of the whole.
Yes.
It's a,
Yes.
yeah, but that's
It,
not who you are.
no.
Yeah.
No. And also it's a bit like, because I've been, a teacher for years and years. Many times you have to feign anger. When you're like trying to sort of get a point across, or you're disciplining the class. It's just like playing a part, putting on this voice and
It is, yeah.
Joey, you need to behave yourself, or whatever it is. It's just playing a part. And
It
and
is.
sometimes too, anger or irritation comes up, and you might go with it for a second or two, but then there's a remembrance, or there's something that happens that
Yeah.
helps you see what is really going on. So it doesn't carry the same weight, I guess, is a way of I would put it.
No, it doesn't have that. You know what? The frustration, the irritation happens, but it's not happening to a person.
Right.
It's very direct, right?
Yes.
And when you see that it's very direct, it's not personalized. I was laughing so hard because I'm like, here's an AI
Yes.
arguing with an AI
Yes. And getting nowhere fast.
and getting nowhere. The AI said, I'm sorry, we need an account number to be whatever, right? And I'm like, operator, sorry, we need an account number, operator. they don't
Yes.
they don't budge in anymore.
No,
They don't say, well, okay, you know what I'm saying? Hang on for a moment, you know what I'm saying? And let me connect you to an operator. No,
no,
it's not like that anymore. It's a
no.
completely AI thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It,
We don't
yeah,
even have people working in there anymore. So it's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the world we're living in, right? So we may as well just laugh and enjoy. So Emerson, thank you for sharing your story, because I
Well,
think
thank
it's
you.
really, really helpful for, especially for ardent spiritual
Mhm.
seekers, to hear that, because you can often feel like it's just you, and you're not getting there, or you are getting there, whatever the story is. But can you just share a little bit about how you currently work with individuals who are kind of at the end of seeking and just frustrated with it?
Yeah. Well, initially, when I started speaking, I just really wanted to be behind the scenes. Um, I do love, non-duality, and I'm a fanboy of it. And so I was just behind the scenes, and this other guy, great guy named Noel. Um, he was with Absolute Awareness. He had, and I contacted him. We became friends, and then he said, "Hey, do you want to do a conference together?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." So initially, I was supposed to be a speaker of this conference called Nothing Conference. I'm sure. Have you heard of it?
I haven't, no.
You haven't. So we basically gathered 40 speakers and teachers about non-duality to
Hmm.
come and speak about it. And I was a part of the 40, but I ended up just becoming the host, and I quite enjoyed it. So I'm like, there's no need to speak about this. Just allowing all of the speakers to. And then it grew into Nothing Media. And then we had this channel with a whole bunch of different, you know, um, apparent characters that realized or dropped away the realization. And so we started hosting some teachers, some speakers. One of the speakers could not make it one day. And on the side, I've been doing one-on-ones because I was noticing, I'm like, why are you still seeking at 30, 40 years, 50 years, or whatever? And there was just compassion here. And I started doing it on the side. So um, there were perhaps maybe about 10, 15 people that stopped their seeking doing one-on-ones. But I was really reluctant to be a speaker or a teacher, being public again doing that, because I got burnt the first time.
Yeah.
And it just came out naturally. I stepped up for another speaker, and it almost there was beautiful words that came out. And I did that for about a year and 2 years, just doing Q&A thing, but doing one-on-ones on the side. Um, Earlier this year, I had a breakthrough. I did which now I call the last retreat, because the person that organized it found me about 3 years ago and said that, hey, Emerson, I'm going to get my community to come listen to you because there's a lot of suffering and everything. Um, and then some of them are living in a community, basically. So there was 100 people, about 60, 70 of them are coming from communities or cults, that kind of thing. And this was perhaps their only opportunity to do a retreat, because retreats are rather expensive.
Yeah.
And um, and then something just came over me. I'm like, this is the last chance. You know what? Let me do a one-on-one session with everybody.
Hmm.
I'm like, how am I going to do this in a 5-day period? So I basically um, had 10, 12-hour days in between talks. And then midway through it, there was maybe about 30, 40 people missing. I'm like, oh, I was having my general talk. And I'm like, maybe this is not working for some people, or they don't like what's being shared there or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at the end of it, we had a dance party. I DJ'd. And those people that were missing said, oh, you know what? We stopped seeking midway. So they just went sightseeing. It's a beautiful place, in British Columbia. And some of them went whale watching, some of them, just whatever. And then at the end of it, I actually set up this beautiful guy that's been seeking for quite a while, but he's also a therapist. He has he's gone through cults as
Mm.
well.
Mm.
His name is John Lapin, amazing guy, and he is he did help a lot of people. So I talked to him like, well, I'm going to come with a lot of people coming from cults. So can you um, help them, after? So we set
Mhm.
this up. I basically sent a video to everybody that, we had to talk like this. If you're having anything, guess what? No one, reached out. They said, they would reach out and they're like, oh, thank you so much for this resource, Emerson, but I think I'm fine right now.
Wow.
It's been few months now, and that one-on-one, I went in between. I just really heard, met everyone where they're at, because I was having people coming from more radical, some
Mhm.
people coming from more of the awareness, and then some people coming from A Course in Miracles, some people coming from a whole bunch of different things. So I just wanted to meet them directly where they're at. And the common theme was that they have a belief
Yes. Yes.
or a
Yes.
non-belief,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is which is the hiding place for a character, for the
Yes.
ego, for the self. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So we just go in between. So I started going in between where um, the words collide, and
Yeah.
then emptiness basically just rushes over, and it can't be said. There was just this equanimity, because what I like about one-on-ones is that we take off our roles. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then we come into this silent space where in between words we meet in this empty space. We dance, we gasp at the silence. We're like, what the hell is going on?
Hmm.
And yeah, so after that last retreat, I started doing it one-on-one, and I started offering the same format over and over and over again. And I would hear their stories, and be empathic with it, just reach on a personal level, make it relatable. I got off my high chair of know me,
Yes.
because that's just another concept, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I
Yes.
got off the pedestal of whatever, you know what I'm saying, and just sat, eye to eye, heart to heart with the character. And usually the stories that they tell, I've been there.
Yeah. Yes.
It's almost like I got out of hell, and
Yes. Listen,
and
yeah, I know.
you know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So, that this is just so amazing. But what I'm thinking might help viewers
Mhm.
is, can we kind of do like a role play, or how
Yeah, for sure,
whatever,
for sure.
just to give people. I'm just going to move the blinds here a little bit,
Yeah,
so
no worries.
um, just just to give viewers an idea of about how this works.
Of course, yeah. So
So let's pretend like, okay, we're meeting for the first time. You
yeah,
ask,
yeah,
you asked me what my story is. I've told my story. I've been a seeker
yeah.
for 30 years, and I had Shaktipat, and and this and that and the other, whatever the story.
Mhm.
So, I tell my wonderful story, and you say, isn't that wonderful? And then,
Oh my goodness, I've been through that too, that kind of thing. And wow. Um, and I'll usually kind of like, cut to the chase and just ask, at this very instance, if you cannot go to the past or you cannot go to the future, what do you believe? Yeah. So in that space right away, right? In that
yes.
space right away, there's this clarity without words. And it might take a couple of tries, but you're clear already, Julie. So,
Yes, yes, yes.
the tries would be right. They're like, well, I believe that. And I'm like, that's a belief, right? Or they'll say something like, it's just, um, it's the character, the me, the self, the ego, the mind wants to always be in control.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put it in a spotlight, because it's just a belief, the I, the me, the self is just a belief. It's a
Yes.
belief that is so solid that you don't question it.
Yes.
But when you are, put in a spotlight, that if you cannot go to the past, the future, where's the belief? Because if you say, well, I believe I'm here, I'm like, that's based in the past. Here is something that you learned, right? We're
Yeah.
going back into that spaciousness where there's innocence, kind of like when you look at the empty eyes of a baby and the joy that comes out from it, right?
Yes.
And it's almost like, and then we talked about this, Julie, it's like the hoarder is caught.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm sure you've had, in these one-on-ones, you've had periods where, a seeker you'll ask them that question, what do you believe right now?
Yeah.
And they will go to the mind and pull down a belief that they picked up from their, like, it takes lifetimes to attain the self.
That's right. Yeah.
But again, that's going into the mind, that's going into thought, that's rummaging around and pulling down a belief, which really has no substance other than what it's given, right?
Yeah.
In terms of.
So the tendency is to go to the mind, but then I will ask again, what's between a mind and no mind? Yeah, it's so simple, right? Because you know what, we are living in a dream of dualities, right? Yeah. And then for an I to appear, there has to be an other. Yes. For anything creates this dualistic thing. And it creates, it creates a past that doesn't exist to maintain a future that doesn't exist. So its existence is basically based on time. But if you look at it, time is just a thought. Without thoughts, where's time? Without time, where's a thought?
Yeah, I remember some years ago, a master yogi once said, time is not necessary to attain the self.
Yeah. It's like, you know what, and someone told me this. It's like, you're not going to like this, Emerson, but it feels like, like I am a timeless being hypnotized by time.
Yes.
Brilliant, though, huh?
Yeah, that's the truth of it.
Yeah. And then he goes, oh my goodness, I'm not even a being. Because it's just another thought, right? You know what I'm saying? Right. He goes, because for timelessness, yeah, and it's and again, right, I basically trick time by going in between so that it doesn't exist in this moment.
And there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go, yeah. And another one that I ask is because there's people that will be, the tendency is just to go into the narrative of, well, I'm not going to get this. Nice try, Emerson. I've been seeking for 30 years, 50. This is my 50th. There's this person that saw my video with an 88-year-old man. And he, this 88-year-old man, brilliant guy named Robin, has been to, saw the masters, Krishnamurti, and everybody. Yeah, all of that. There was another person that was with Ramesh Balsekar and all the greats, basically, right? And then he said, my story, actually, Emerson, I've been to everyone. So there's a guy that booked me, and basically I think he's like 90 years old. He would have been the oldest one, but we decided not to release this video because it was very emotional. He said, yeah, that's what he said. Oh, you will never get me. You know what? And then he said, but I don't want to die seeking, Emerson.
Yes.
I don't want to die without realizing this. And I said, well, you have to get out of the way.
Yes.
And he goes, oh, what do you mean? You have to get out of the way. What's between you and no you? And then he broke into tears. It was a very, very cathartic experience for him because he's been following the words of others.
Yes.
And then I added, what are you without the language of others? What are you without language?
Yes.
And then he just kept on crying and crying and crying. And I'm like, and he said, which was really funny, he goes, I can have a heart attack now and I'll be okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you shared that, because I remember that was one of the main points or kind of contemplations that I was having while I was moving towards the end of seeking. I kept thinking, oh shit, I don't want to end up on my deathbed saying that was a bloody waste of time. I should have just been partying and having a grand
Yeah.
old, like, just enjoying myself. I was terrified at the idea of doing all that work and, that seeking, and then getting to the end and saying, why did I do that? And it was at that point that the whole kind of seeking energy fell away. And then
Yeah.
what was here was clearly seen. But I think somehow we have to kind of burn that out. That has to be just driven from us somehow, because it seems to be so strong. And also, there's this belief that it's the person that attains self-realization.
Mm,
Right? I will
yeah.
become an improved version of who I
That's right.
think
Yeah.
I am, and I can
But it's a
declare,
self-preservation. See?
yes,
It's a self-preservation, right? There's nothing wrong with the self because it doesn't exist,
right,
right? We just have it's all basically it's seeking becomes kind of like a self improvement in steroids.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
it becomes kind of like, well, what if I lose the self? That's still the self wanting to lose the self, but there's no self. So it reinforces that there is a self to lose anyway, right?
yes,
Why do I go into the higher self? There's just another reinforcement that there is a lower self,
yeah,
right? So it creates this narrative over and over again, and it's just cyclical,
yeah, yes,
cyclical.
mm-hmm.
Because you'll get convinced one time that you are, that there's no self now. You're like, oh, wow, it's great. The self comes back and you're banging your head again on the wall. Or you could pretend that the me dropped away, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can say that, oh, energetically something shifted. But when that AI, what I'm saying, that's
Yeah,
not giving you an operator. When you say operator for a person that thinks that they have dropped the me, they're like, oh my goodness, the me is back.
yes,
But there was no me in the first place. So you laugh about it,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yes,
And that's what happens with non-duality and seeking. It's just a closed loop over and over and over again. So that's why going in between, you know what I'm saying, for me was a breakthrough.
mm,
For a lot of people, it's been a breakthrough, right? People have been messaging me. They're like, oh, it's so simple.
yes,
It's so simple. If you take away all the words, what's seeking? What are
mm-hmm.
you seeking? Is it a word?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a shiny thing called enlightenment that glistens and heals everyone by the touch of it? No.
No,
Yeah. But what's right here, the mystery that we keep on ignoring and um, negating and swiping and denying or accepting
yeah, or diminishing,
or
or kind of
diminishing or
overlaying it.
praising and everything
Yeah.
does not need mental activity, because the mental activity, um, the thoughts about it, the belief about it, what diminishes it or hides it,
Yes.
because there's a you in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the you will say, well, how do I lose the you?
Yeah. Yes.
And then someone will say, well, it's a contracted energy and everything. So then you believe that there's a you that's a contracted energy now, or you're
Yes.
not aware. That's why there's a you, or
Yes.
you're not
Yes.
conscious enough, right?
Yes. Or you
So
have to clear your chakras,
you
or
have to
you have
clear chakras, yeah, or go to
whatever.
a Kundalini activation thing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yes.
And
Or
nothing wrong with
purify.
that.
No, purify your diet. That's another one, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Or
I did that.
get rid of thought, get rid of negative thoughts. Try and lasso your thoughts to make them better. Higher vibrational thoughts.
I did a crime of letting go of my dog at one point because I thought that was attachment.
Oh,
And it was so heartbreaking. We reunited, you know what I'm saying? In my
good.
exile. Well, I didn't want him to see through my suffering anyway. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I have to detach from my dog. And of course, every time I would see a dog, I'm like, it would,
Mm,
it's like a stab in my heart. I'm like, my dog is not without me right now because of the seeking.
mm-hmm.
When I came back, he He was the one that was basically my best teacher, because I saw that he did not. There was just a, how do you call it? A radiance about him that accepted everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came back, there was instant forgiveness. And then we spent so many beautiful days until his last days, basically. His
Mm.
last days, he even waited for me. I was doing my talks.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and he was like 16 years and 9 months, right? Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And there are
Be-
some enlightenment circles that they say that enlightened people should not have any pets because there's no attachment. That's just another thought.
wow.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one, but
Have you heard it? There was a
no, I
big
hadn't.
there was a big discussion about it on Facebook at one point, right? And because it again, it's all coming from knowing.
Yeah.
And I can't even watch, non-duality meetings now because people keep on sending me clips because it's just there's too many words,
Yes.
too much
Yeah.
intellectualization.
I just can't. There were a few I saw on Facebook, and I just it's just a lot of debating back and forth, and it's just
Yeah. And that's why I don't do Q&As anymore.
no.
No, to me that's over. I'll answer the odd one, but once in a while, but because the Q&A will propose that someone knows, propose
Yes.
that someone is higher than you,
Mm-hmm.
someone knows more than you. And I wanted to kind of like, I've been saying this in the past year. um it's the end of the era of gurus and teachers and speakers.
Yeah.
um you're waiting for the Zen master to slap you. Stand up and slap the master.
Yes. Or stand up and slap yourself.
Or slap yourself. Yeah, I'm not into violence, but
No.
just yeah. I always, what, and it's kind of like when and then it clicked one day. It was just kind of like, oh my goodness. So here I am listening to all of these teachers and speakers, and I was one of them too, that are trapped, that are in jail in their own mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like watching through prison bars someone yammering about enlightenment when they're still in prison.
Yes.
So what I do is just basically tap someone's back, and you're like, you're not actually in the prison. You just have to turn around and see that. Don't go into the prison cell. There's an open field.
Yeah.
There's an open field by the prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to look through the prison walls to hear people speak about liberation when they're talking really about entrapment,
Yes.
because they have an idea of what liberation is.
Yes.
Liberation is not an idea.
No.
No.
And also, this is why they can't, no matter how long their seekers or their students have been with them, they can't help them be free.
No. No. And that's what, I went to another one, and I'm like, oh, everybody's so blissful and happy. And they're like, and I'm like, how long have you been doing this? And they're like, oh, 15 years. I know this. I only listen to him. I'm like, surely if someone who's been with me for 15 years, I'm like, well, it's time to go.
Yes.
Or let's be friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because it's creating this hierarchy, this authoritarianism. If there's real compassion there,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not going to say that the only compassion is to do nothing.
Yeah.
What's that going to do? Who's doing nothing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it traps these people in this idea, this jargon, or you know what, or people keep on practicing nonstop.
I know. And avoiding, I don't know, going out for a walk or playing tennis or being with their family because they've got to
Yeah.
meditate for 2 hours or something.
And that's what I did for a decade or more. Was just I just trapped myself, right? I was in prison, lecturing from prison, because I was caught up in all of these rituals and all of this stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you make that about what your liberation or enlightenment is, then it becomes a structure again, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you'll never be free of it.
No, no. I haven't, I didn't even notice when all of that dropped, right? I was just like, I'm like, oh, I haven't meditated in 8 years. I dance a lot.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with meditation. Some people might find it whatever, you know what I'm saying? But the people that it's almost like, when somebody's sober, they don't go to a bar and drink water.
Right.
To try to practice to be sober.
Yes.
You get out, you go running. You know what I'm saying? You walk. You don't keep on going to the bar. And then it's like going to a bar, looking for sobriety. And then you have a whole bunch of bartenders saying, I think the alcohol in this is just, here, try this one. You won't, there's still alcohol in it, but it's clear. You know what? Or here's a shot of consciousness. You might get tipsy just be aware of it though, but just be aware.
Yeah.
It's still intoxication.
Yes. And it's so easy to buy into all of that and not even realize what we're doing.
Yeah.
And not want to acknowledge that it's not working, and not want to acknowledge that we're not happy, or we're enjoying life, or whatever is going on. But it's really, it's hard to break out of, I think, unless you're willing to be really honest with yourself.
That's what it is, right? Because if you're really honest with yourself, why do you believe that there's just the I am?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you believe it's all consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
Did someone tell you that?
Yeah.
Why do you believe that there's no me? Did someone convince you of that? Why do you think you have contracted energy when 99.9999% of the population does not know what that is? Is it because you think that you're dropping the me? Or is it just full of shit? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Why do people keep on going to these meetings and they're still miserable? Why is this teacher miserable?
Or have dysfunctions in the background,
That's right. Yeah.
That they're contentment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's just really kind of like just being brutally honest, right?
Yeah.
Why is my teacher snaps? You know what I'm saying? When they get questioned, again, there's nothing wrong with snapping, but why is it that all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why is he holding a belief so hard? You know what I'm saying? That you can't question it.
Yes.
And the moment that you
question.
The moment they question it, they correct you right away. Either it's all awareness, it's all consciousness, it's no me, right? So it's just a whole bunch of people, and then they'll put down others over and over and over again. There's room for everything. It's okay to believe in consciousness. It's okay not to believe in consciousness. It's okay to believe that there's no me. It's okay and also not to believe. But somewhere in between, there's peace.
Yes, that's it right there.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
So that might be that might be a great place just for you to maybe let people know where to find you.
Oh yeah. At www.emerson-nonduality.com. I'll send you the link so that people can click on it. If people are really, if people are ready to end the seeking, they get really honest, brutally honest, right? And just no filters kind of thing. And start loving again, start living again, start walking, smelling the roses. If you're ready to take off the rose-colored glasses, right? But see the sunlight, cry at the sunsets. You know what I'm saying? Or yell at Siri.
Yes. And take off the spiritual robes.
Yeah.
And throw the mala away.
There's a funny story about that. I was so attached to my malas, right? Then it would break and I would be like, someone would be like, that's a good thing, Emerson. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. So everything is bypassed. Everything, it's funny, right? The spiritual bypassing, but spirituality actually is a bit of a bypassing. Now,
Yeah.
duality is a bit of a bypassing, right? Because when you're so caught up in your thoughts and your ideas about what it is, when you become a scholar, right? And it's okay. It's okay to talk directly like this. It's
Yeah.
okay to poke fun at it. It's
Yes.
not some holy, that things that we have to be reverent. It's okay to question it. It's all right. It's
Yeah.
okay to go in the space where there's no space,
Yeah.
the in between where there's no in between, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I do basically. I have a couple of, I basically was like, I don't really believe in retreats, but people have been asking me, so I have what's called the last retreat. Basically, it's a retreat to end it basically. And I've done it earlier this year, and I'm going to do it a couple times, and it's just going to be fun, right? Because it's like masks off, no filter,
Mm.
and just love. You know what I'm saying? It's just like there is an in loveness in what I do.
Nice.
Yeah,
So will that be online or is that in person?
it's well, the two ones in person. I just announced it last week, so one of them is already full. It's in May and October, sorry, and spring and fall, which is I love those. And yeah, there's one that's already full. There's still a couple that are still have some spots and everything, but I think it will go fast. Um, and it's just a really fun time. You know what I'm saying? Just to there's going to be a lot of head popping, basically.
Yes, yes. And that where is that in Canada?
In Canada, I'm going to do Canada because you know what, I tried to do out of the country and everything, but my mom still needs care, right? I
Yeah.
want to be here. I want to be close by.
Yes.
And just in case, like something happens, I don't have to go to customs or anything. I can just easily fly back. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Good. So
And people have to see Canada. It's beautiful here.
yeah. So whereabouts in Canada?
In Toronto, one is in Toronto, one
Oh
is
yeah.
in Victoria.
Oh nice. Oh,
Yeah.
Victoria's beautiful. And Toronto's very nice
It
too.
is, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm talking to a couple of I've already have a couple. The one in Victoria I already have set up. The Toronto I'm still negotiating. I'm trying to get a good rate for it and everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you'll give me all the links for that so
I
I
will.
can
I
share.
will.
That would
Yeah.
be really great. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Julie, for inviting me. This is lovely.
Yeah, it's
And
really great. I really love, as always, I love talking to you. It's just fun and just real and authentic.
thank you. I'm gonna stop the recording.